The purpose of today's meeting is to present the package of recommendations and declarations adopted by the WTO Informal Working Group on MSMEs last Friday, and to discuss with you how the Informal Working Group can help MSMEs to participate in international trade in our work in 2021. Some housekeeping before we start. You can participate in the discussion at any time via the chat box, but you will also have the opportunity to take the floor. You will also have the opportunity to take the floor after the presentation for a more direct exchange. If you wish to speak, I invite you to raise your hand so that I can pass you the floor. To do so, please click the hand symbol, which can be found at the bottom of your screen or at the bottom of the participants window. You can also use the globe symbol at the bottom of your screen to change the interpretation language. So you are aware, this event is being live streamed on YouTube and also recorded. Recordings will be made available on the WTO MSME webpage. Logistics aside, and before the presentation of the group's package of recommendations and declarations, I will now turn to our distinguished speakers for a few introductory remarks. Let me begin with His Excellency Ambassador Victoria Francolino, Vice Minister of International Economic Affairs of Uruguay. Ambassador, Vice Minister, you have the floor.
Good afternoon in Geneva, Ambassador Cancela, thank you very much. Distinguidos participantes, Secretario General de la Cámara de Comercio Internacional, señor John Denton, Directora Ejecutiva del Centro de Comercio Internacional, señora Pamela Coke-Hamilton, queridos amigos de las MIPYMES, buenos días, buenas tardes. Gracias por estar hoy con nosotros. Mi agradecimiento especial al señor John Denton y la señora Pamela Coke-Hamilton por haberse unido a nosotros hoy para la presentación del paquete de MIPYMEs recientemente adoptado y el debate con el sector privado. Su apoyo a nuestros esfuerzos es muy apreciado. El viernes pasado fue un día importante para las MIPYMEs. Al respaldar un paquete de 6 recomendaciones y declaraciones para facilitar su participación en el comercio internacional, los miembros de la OMC, que forman parte del grupo de trabajo informal de la OMC sobre MIPYMEs, han demostrado que se preocupan por las MIPYMEs y están dispuestos a ayudarlas. Las MIPYMEs se encuentran en el corazón de la economía mundial. Representan el 95% de todas las empresas en el mundo y son responsables del 60% del empleo global. Contribuyen alrededor del 35% del PBI en las economías en desarrollo y al 50% en los países desarrollados. Y algo no menor, las MIPYMEs son empleadores clave de mujeres y jóvenes. Las MIPYMEs están en el corazón de nuestra vida económica. Las tiendas y cafés locales a los que asistimos, los proveedores y los comerciantes. Cuando las MIPYMEs prosperan, las economías son más inclusivas. Desafortunadamente, también están en el centro de la pandemia actual. La pandemia del COVID-19 ha dado lugar a la crisis económica más devastadora de nuestras vidas. Y las MIPYMEs están en el centro de todo esto. Las pequeñas empresas prevalecen en sectores como el turismo y los servicios alimentarios, la cultura y el comercio minorista, que resultan ser los sectores económicos más afectados por las medidas de distanciamiento social y las restricciones al transporte. En las cadenas de valor de manufacturas, las interrupciones de las cadenas de suministro han afectado gravemente a los participantes de las MIPYMEs. Con la pandemia, que sigue devastando a muchas pequeñas empresas, es más importante que nunca apoyar este componente crítico de la economía. El paquete de textos respaldado por el grupo de las MIPYMEs de la OMC y que les presentaremos hoy es, por lo tanto, extremadamente oportuno. Felicito el arduo trabajo de los miembros del grupo de MIPYMEs de la OMC durante el último año para finalizar estos textos, cuyo objetivo es mejorar el acceso de las MIPYMEs a la información regulatoria y de mercado, promover la inclusión de las dimensiones relacionadas con las MIPYMEs en la reglamentación comercial, fomentar la aplicación efectiva de medidas de facilitación del comercio y la plena implementación del acuerdo sobre facilitación del mismo acuerdo. Y finalmente, aumentar el acceso de las MIPYMEs al financiamiento. Este paquete, que marca el primer resultado de una iniciativa conjunta, demuestra claramente que la OMC puede responder a los nuevos desafíos de manera flexible, pragmática y oportuna. Pero este paquete es solo un primer paso. El grupo ahora tiene la intención de investigar los nuevos problemas que enfrentan las MIPYMEs. Por eso, la reunión de hoy es muy importante. Necesitamos escuchar sus opiniones. Necesitamos escuchar de usted en qué cuestiones cree que debería centrarse el grupo en los próximos 12 a 24 meses. Esto es esencial para garantizar que las acciones tomadas por el grupo respondan a sus necesidades y lo ayuden. Gracias de nuevo por acompañarnos hoy. Espero un intercambio fructífero y los animo a todos a trabajar en estrecha colaboración con el grupo MIPYMEs en los próximos meses. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Thank you very much for your declaration, Ambassador Francolino. Now I will turn to Chao Chun-ji, Deputy Director General of the World Trade Organization. Mr. Deputy Director General, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Cancela. And thank you very much, Vice Minister Francolino, for your introductory words. Good afternoon, colleagues, and welcome to all participants. It is wonderful to be with you today to present MSMEs Group package and to hear your views on the way forward for the group. This package is an important accomplishment by the group to support MSME trade, which lags behind large firms. At a time when the global economy is suffering because of COVID-19, and the MSMEs are of the economic fallout. This package is also an opportunity for the WTO to show it cares. It provides resources to support MSME trade recovery and business resilience through 6 recommendations, including providing information and supporting trade facilitation. But this package is just a first step. It not only begins to address some of the underlying problems. As members and representatives of the private sector, you know the real challenges that MSMEs face to trade. It is therefore important that we hear your views and understand the ways the WTO can help. This afternoon is not only supposed to be an information sharing event. More importantly, it's supposed to be a conversation with you, the private sector. It is valuable for us to hear your on-the-ground experiences. All encouraged to actively share your ideas. This collaboration will help direct the WTO's MSME activities and provide insights on MSME's trade needs. I also welcome the close cooperation between the MSME group, the ICC, and the ITC. Such collaboration is essential to help MSMEs and bring our efforts together. Thank you both for your participation in today's event and for spreading the word to your members. Finally, I would like to thank you all for your participation today. It is not always easy to see where the problems are and how to help MSMEs trade. Your assistance identifying next steps will help the WTO help MSMEs. Thank you again for your presence today, and I wish you all a productive webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your words, Mr. Deputy Director General. Let me now turn to Mr. John Denton, Secretary General of the International Chamber of Commerce, and if you allow me, an old friend of the Informal Working Group of MSMEs. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Councillor, for hosting us today as the coordinator of the WTO Informal Working Group. But most of all, congratulations on developing a very important package of recommendations ahead of MC12. And it's great to be here with your Vice Minister. Your presence here today, Vice Minister, demonstrates the outsized leadership role that Uruguay has played and continues to play in the development of international trade rules. And I can tell you that your colleagues from the ICC in Uruguay, our colleagues from the Chambers of Commerce in Uruguay, always make certain we hear from Uruguay whenever we meet. You carry a very big voice in global affairs. And may I also pass on a sadder note and express my condolences for the very recent passing of former President Tabaré Vázquez. Deputy Director Yi, it's always good to see you, and I want to thank you personally for the support that you have given to the ICC's Digital Standards Initiative in Singapore. This is our goal, to take trade from analog to digital, and we're so glad that you've been able to find it within the WTO to support that process as well. It will be a game changer. And Pamela, of course, ICC and ITC's interests are very aligned. We work together in so many areas. In fact, you're probably getting tired of seeing me, but I'm certainly enjoying the experience of working with the ITC, because we do so much together to support small businesses around the world. And I commend you for your work, and I commend the ITC for its work and the collaboration you've shown. Today is a great day for the WTO. It's not often I get a chance to say that. And it's a great day because we're putting the two, WTO and MSMEs, in the same sentence. That's why it's a great day. We often hear about the challenges of the WTO. We know of all the difficulties, the stalemate over the appointment of the new Director General, the failure to resolve the appellate body process, the dispute settlement panels failing to meet, and governments appealing decisions into the legal void in full knowledge that there is no one there to hear the case. The inability to finally finish the fisheries subsidies, and I've had a lot to say on that in the last 24 hours, even though that was mandated by leaders. So it's actually critical that we actually do acknowledge these problems. So don't get me wrong. These issues must be resolved so that the trading system continues to work for its ultimate end users, businesses, the majority of whom, as the Vice Minister has said, are actually SMEs and micro SMEs. But we should also recognize where there are real signs of life. And I've been calling for some time for signs of life from the WTO and for opportunities to emerge, and there are some. And I would be wrong of me not to articulate those today. The first, we have seen a consolidated text presented by the e-commerce working group just last week, and real progress with the services domestic regulation negotiations, and the launch of the structured discussions on trade and environmental sustainability, which I was honoured to participate in most recently. And today, we have another important example with significant progress being made by the 90 countries participating in the WTO Informal Working Group on MSMEs. We are pleased the WTO members have listened and acted upon business recommendations for how to improve the system for MSMEs. We have, as you know, been advocating for all the key recommendations in the package, and I commend my colleagues Chris Byrne and Damien Brookhart, who've been directly engaged in the hand-to-hand combat to get all these elements contained in the package, including mainstreaming MSME analysis in trade policy reviews, improving access to information about foreign trade barriers, including through the global trade help desks that ICC's national committees and our chambers of commerce have tested and helped to improve the design, and calling for the full implementation of the trade facilitation agreement, which will have enormous practical consequences for businesses the world over. Only last week, I convened a meeting of the Regional Action Group of ICC for Sub-Saharan Africa. The number one issue on the list of items that they wanted dealt with was trade facilitation. And Vice Minister, you will not be surprised to know that in Latin America, in our Regional Action Group in Latin America, a similar prominence is paid to that. So minimizing the regulatory burden for small companies, which is almost the number one cited hurdle for doing business overseas, is actually critical. ICC strongly supports the package of measures and encourages all WTO members to join the initiative for two very simple reasons. First, the recommendations are good sense. They make good sense. They're good for MSMEs, which comprise around 90% of companies across the globe, employing more than 50% of the world's total employment numbers. And I say this as the voice of the global real economy at ICC. It simply makes good sense for MSMEs and therefore gives a better prospect for some hope for economic recovery from this catastrophe. Second, this shows that the WTO can still work. It sends a very important political signal. It shows that the WTO can still work for its end users, which is just as important. The more wins members can get, or actually achieved by MC12, the greater political support for multilateralism. I say this as a friend of the WTO and of the multilateral trading system. And it's sometimes friends like me that you need, friends who are prepared to speak the truth candidly and ensure that you realize that if you do listen to us, there is actually an opportunity to continue to curate effectively a global multilateral trading system. The end user's business have an interest in this, and we want to ensure our interests are aligned with you. Let me conclude by saying, making trade work for MSMEs always matters. Making trade work for MSMEs every day, everywhere. That's our aim, that's what we do, but never more so than today. MSMEs have been hit extremely hard by COVID-19. Small business revenue has dropped precipitously, millions have failed, and many more will undoubtedly close over the next year, causing enormous job losses, exacerbating global inequality, financial and food insecurity, all the key fragilities that we know about that we must work with. Many of those that remain open are now in dire straits and in need of assistance. If there was ever a time to make international commerce easier for small business, surely today is the day. I commend the work of this working group, and I thank you for allowing us to play a role in its creation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Denton, for your comments and for your continued support to our group. And also thank you for giving me the opportunity to announce that, as a matter of fact, we are 91 now, because yesterday we had the pleasure to announce that a new member of the WTO has joined the Informal Working Group. So Ukraine is, since yesterday, a member of the group, making 91 the number today. And I had the expectations that many more will follow in the coming days. Now, let me turn to Mrs. Pamela Koch-Hamilton, Executive Director of the International Trade Center. Pamela, good afternoon. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Valentine Victoria Francolino, Vice Minister for Uruguay, Deputy Director Yi from WTO, and of course, John, Secretary General of ICC. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm very pleased to be here with you today on what is a real silver lining in the discussions at the WTO this year. The release of a series of recommendations from the MSME Working Group on how trade negotiations must continue to take into account the interests and priorities of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs. ITC has partnered with the working group in numerous areas since it was launched, and be assured of our support as these recommendations are rolled out. Building back better and bolder means building back with and for MSMEs, as they will be at the center of the recovery. The package you have discussed and released today sends a strong and concrete message of support and commitment, not only to reaffirming the central role of the World Trade Organization as the place for this kind of discourse, but also that bridging gaps across the table is possible when we're focused on building a more inclusive and resilient trading system. Both the Global Trade Help Desk Initiative, led by UNCTAD, WTO, and ITC, and the WTO Informal Working Group on MSMEs were launched at the 11th Ministerial Conference in Buenos Aires, with the common goal of supporting MSMEs' engagement in global trade. It is therefore a great pleasure to see these initiatives have matured together and are complementary. The package reiterates the central importance of collection, maintenance, and access of MSME-related information. Access to information is vital for making the most of emerging opportunities in the global marketplace. And I'd like to thank the members of the Informal Working Group for recognizing the important role that the Global Trade Help Desk can play in improving access to key trade and market information for smaller firms, and for their commitment to continue to improve the information from their respective countries. The package is a concrete demonstration of the efforts at the multilateral level in support of domestic policies and development strategies to increase MSMEs' participation in international trade, by also presenting recommendations on trade facilitation and MSMEs, as well as trade-related aspects of MSMEs' access to finance and cross-border payments. In that regard, I commit to embed those recommendations in our ITC intervention model towards full implementation of the trade facilitation agreement and engagement with MSMEs when designing trade facilitation regulatory measures, and to reflecting these elements in our strategic plan for 2022 to 2025, which will be prepared in the coming year. Finally, the package underscores the necessity to tackle digitalization for MSMEs. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown us that despite the upgrade in digital use, more than half of the world's population is not online. Our ITC SME Competitiveness Outlook for 2020 report has shown that many small firm managers had to shift from reliable and affordable Wi-Fi access to expensive and not always well-functioning mobile internet access through a pay-as-you-go model. As a result, the cost of accessing the internet has gone up for a substantial part of the population and business community in the countries where ITC operates. The issue of internet penetration and digital trade readiness for MSMEs is of utmost importance for ITC, and is part of us mainstreaming digital approach in all of our projects. We need to address digital penetration issues and ensure that we don't replicate the analog divide in the digital space for MSMEs. Whether it is accessing the right information, supplying affordable finance, facilitating trade procedures, or ensuring digital connectivity, the package of recommendations comes at an urgent time to put MSMEs in a position to adapt their strategies as we hopefully move into a 2021 of recovery. Thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward to discussions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for your words, Mrs. Koch-Hamilton. And let me thank you all once again for your support. We are also pleased to receive the support of your organizations, Pamela and John. You can count on our support as well, as you know. Before we turn to the presentation of our package, let me make a few preliminary remarks on the origin and the objectives of the Informal Working Group on MSMEs, as well as a few words on the types of solutions discussed within the group and on our next steps for 2021. I will then let the group members present the MSME package of recommendations and declarations. Helping MSMEs to trade contribute to their economic development by bringing new market prospects and knowledge transfer opportunities with business around the globe. International trade is also one way for MSMEs to recover swiftly from the pandemic, which has underscored the importance of MSMEs, people's livelihoods, and global productivity. However, MSMEs participation in international trade remains limited in all economies. According to WTO calculations, MSMEs only export 10% of their manufacturing sector sales compared to 27% for large firms. Services sectors do not perform much better, and in developing countries, only 4% of MSME services are exported. MSME performance in developed countries are better, but still low compared to larger firms. On average, MSMEs account for only 34% of merchandise and services export, even though MSMEs account for about 95% of global businesses. Although sometimes trade obstacles for MSMEs are specific to local contexts, many trade obstacles are common to all MSMEs. These include a lack of targeted trade information, finance and capacity building, among others. Now, you can see on your screen, on the slide, that in 2017, 88 WTO members established an informal working group to find solutions to help MSMEs in international trade. The group is now composed of 91 WTO members and is open to all members interested in discussing concrete solutions, as well as exchanging ideas and best practices to support MSMEs in international trade. We work like an incubator of ideas. The MSME group looks to support MSME trade through existing and relevant WTO bodies and through concrete tools. These solutions are horizontal and non-discriminatory. They benefit all businesses, but target specific challenges encountered by MSMEs. We do not prescribe a definition of MSMEs, nor obligations to support MSMEs, since local realities vary across the WTO membership. We are working on recommendations and guidelines. In other words, soft law. After 3 years of hard work with the members of the informal working group, I am proud to tell you that the group adopted 6 recommendations and declarations last Friday. In a nutshell, this text aimed to enhance MSMEs' access to market and regulatory information, to include MSMEs' interest when developing trade regulations, to increase access to finance and cross-border payments, and to implement MSME-friendly trade facilitation measures. The group is also developing an online platform to support MSME that is called Trade for MSMEs, which will be released in 2021 and will be presented to you today. Well, what's next? Let me conclude with a few words on the next steps for the informal working group in 2021. Of course, the group will monitor the implementation of these recommendations and declarations. Also, it will work on new ones. We have invited members of the group and anyone interested in this work to share their ideas and topics for future work. The private sector has played a key role in helping the group identify obstacles encountered by MSMEs in international trade and solutions to overcome them. We look forward to further collaborating with the private sector in 2021. We encourage private sector representatives to reach out to us so that we engage with you through the group's webinars, workshops, and newsletters. You can send your emails to me directly, to Mauro Bruno of the Mission of Uruguay, or to the WTO Secretariat. Mauro's and WTO Secretariat's emails are indicated in the chat box. Without further ado, I will give now the floor to the proponents of the various texts we just adopted last Friday. I now give the floor to Canada to present the recommendation on the collection and maintenance of MSME related information. So, Canada, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et bonjour à tout le monde. Cette première recommandation concerne la fourniture volontaire d'informations relatives au MPE dans le cadre des examens de la politique commerciale. Ce processus d'examen offre aux membres une bonne occasion d'offrir des informations facilement disponibles sur les MPE, soit dans le rapport préparé par l'OMC. Ce type d'information peut être un outil important pour nous aider à identifier les bonnes pratiques permettant de relever les défis auxquels sont confrontées les MPME lorsqu'elles participent au commerce international. C'est également la raison pour laquelle le groupe recommande que le secrétariat de l'OMC établisse et maintienne une base de données des informations collectées ou fournies par les membres. Cela peut ensuite être utilisé, entre autres, pour éclairer l'analyse et les discussions des points de l'ordre du jour liés au MPME dans les comités de l'OMC. La recommandation comprend une liste d'exemples d'informations relatives au MPME que les membres pourraient volontairement fournir. Il s'agit notamment de données statistiques, d'aspects du cadre du marché et des programmes et politiques gouvernementaux mis en place pour soutenir les MPME. Je conclurai en disant que les membres répondent déjà positivement à cette recommandation et que telles informations apparaissent dans les récents examens de la politique commerciale. Merci.
Thank you very much, Canada. Now I'll give the floor to Switzerland for the presentation of the Declaration on Access to Information. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It seems that I don't have all the functionalities of Zoom, so I'm not sure if you can see me, but for the interest of time, I will perhaps proceed.
Yeah, we cannot see you, but we can hear you well.
Okay, so let me proceed, and all apologies if you cannot see me.
Good.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, the ocean of rules and other prerequisites that are necessary for the proper conduct of a trade operation between two given countries is very vast and complex. Of course, compared to large companies with significant resources, it's obvious that it is more difficult for a micro, small, or even medium-sized company to navigate through this ocean. So when work began in the informal working group on MSMEs in 2018, members of the group quickly realized that a major challenge for MSMEs was to obtain all the relevant information for the conduct of these international trade transactions, regardless of their sector of activity. What are the applicable customs duties? Is there any free trade agreement in force? Are there any preferential treatments applicable? Are exports subject to technical regulations, or do they have to meet safety criteria or SPS standards? What are the applicable rules of origin? All this information is necessary to benefit fully from the opportunities that international trade can offer. So in parallel to these reflections, exchanges with representatives of the International Trade Center enabled us to learn about the difficulties that the Global Trade Help Desk project was facing, namely the collection of information. The objective of the GTH is precisely to centralize all information relevant to international trade and to facilitate access to this wealth of information for all, in particular for MSMEs operating in developing and least developed countries. So the Declaration on Access to Information intends to contribute to the success and rapid full operationalization of the GTH. The Declaration encourages all WTO members to provide, through a simplified questionnaire, information or sources of information that the ITC could best exploit to feed the GTH with accurate and up-to-date trade information. The declaration also encourages members of the informal working group to consider taking action in relevant WTO bodies to enhance transparency with the aim of improving the operationalization of the GTH. According to the declaration, technical assistance shall be provided to help developing and least developed countries that may have difficulties in submitting the required information. Finally, the declaration foresees a review of its operationalization in light of its various parameters. And I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Switzerland. Now I give the floor to Mrs. Anna Jankowska-Eriksson from the International Trade Center for a presentation of the Global Trade Help Desk. Anna, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Chair, and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you so much for the support for the Global Trade Help Desk. And I just wanted to take a quick moment to do a quick demo to show you how it works and what information is available for MSMEs using the Global Trade Help Desk. So if you'll allow me, I will just share my screen quickly. So this is the Global Trade Help Desk. As noted by Switzerland, the goal of the platform is to really centralize the key information that firms need to be able to export or import. So it brings together information from across 11 different agencies and 15 different types of information in a single search. The platform is available at globaltradehelpdesk.org, and it is available in 5 languages at the moment: English, French, Spanish, Russian, and Arabic. So the functionalities allow for looking at an exporter or importer perspective. And just as an example, I wanted to take you through a search for a Colombian exporter. But also, I just wanted to flag at the top here in this light turquoise ribbon, there's also information relevant right now with specific temporary trade measures that have been put in place by governments with respect to COVID. So everything from export restrictions, import restrictions, but also tariff liberalizations. And there's also a list of additional resources here from the ICC and from other partners. So taking the perspective of a Colombian exporter, I'm going to type in Colombia for the exporting country. And I wanted to take the example of perfume. So in case the exporter doesn't already know their harmonized system code, by typing it in, the keyword search will also already propose certain codes. So we can see that it's 330300. And in case they don't have a specific market in mind, they can use the Find Markets button, which proposes markets with high export potential, or the top 10 markets in terms of export potential in the coming 5 years for perfumes from Colombia. So for instance, if we take Chile as an example, I'm going to click on Go. And this takes us to the market overview. So here what we can see is, first, we have a sense of how attractive Chile is as a market. We can see what the global imports are, its relative market size. We can also see the perspective from a Colombian market. So we can see that it has about 17% of import share, and it has been growing rapidly. Imports have grown quite a bit, with over 24 million in imports in the last year. In addition to how economically attractive it is, next, a firm can quickly see how much it costs and how difficult it is to enter this market. So we can see that there is possible tariffs between 0 and 6%, and that there's a preferential tariff. So what I can see here in one quick click is that the MFN rate is 6%, but there are 2 different preferential agreements that offer a 0% tariff, and we can see the rules of origin and the certificates of origin associated with this. In addition, a firm can quickly and easily see what the non-tariff measures or the regulatory requirements are that Chile puts in place for the import of perfume. So here we can see that there are 12 different requirements, and we also have the latest notified regulatory changes from the WTO on SPS and TBT measures. In addition, we have an overview of cost and time to export. These are actually country level indicators from the World Bank, but they do give a benchmark indication of logistics performance. And we have information on companies, business directory of importers and other companies related to this sector in the target market. We have trade finance providers, trade promotion organizations, and other partners that a company might need to connect with in order to put their plan in action. You can get additional details on all of this in the following modules. We have Assess Requirements, which gives information on tariffs, regulations, and private standards. We can also get further information on trade procedures and protecting intellectual property rights, as well as detailed information on all of the different partners. And last but not least, in one simple click, an exporter can simply click and have all of the same information updated for alternative markets to be able to compare opportunities quickly and easily. And the last comment I wanted to make is just that there are additional resources, both trainings and tutorials, but also business resources such as Incoterms or other market information that could be of interest. And in the last few months, we've conducted 22 different webinars with different business organizations and ministries. So if this is at all of interest, you can contact us at the email at the bottom of the page and let us know in case this could also be of interest for you. Thank you very much, Chair. And we hope that this will be useful.
Thank you very much, Anna, for this very interesting presentation. And I now give the floor to Uruguay to present the recommendation on trade facilitation and MSMEs. Uruguay, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and good day to all participants. As you are aware, that burdensome customs procedures are a key challenge faced by MSMEs. The 2016 World Trade Report showed that one of the main obstacles encountered by MSMEs interested in trade is the burden of customs and regulatory procedures. Bureaucratic delays and red tape pose a burden for moving goods across borders. Trade facilitation, the simplification, modernization, and harmonization of export and import processes has therefore emerged as an important issue for the world trading system and particularly for MSMEs. Acknowledging that the benefits of implementing the Trade Facilitation Agreement, which entered into force in 2017, accrue particularly to MSMEs. Members of the Informal Working Group on MSMEs call for the full implementation of the TFA and invites WTO members, the WTO Secretariat, and donor organizations to work together in order to design and provide MSMEs-related capacity building and technical assistance. The recommendation also emphasizes the importance for MSMEs of the effective application of trade facilitation disciplines that contribute to reducing transit time and costs, and call upon the constructive cooperation between members with a view to enhancing freedom of transit. Likewise, in view of speeding up customs procedures, members agree to endeavor to identify opportunities to adopt digital solutions. Furthermore, better supporting MSMEs through implementation of the TFA is of utmost importance to our group. Our approach is not to advocate for changes to the TFA, but rather to explore good practices, engage with the private sector on the design of trade facilitation measures, and develop possible recommendations that could help promote MSMEs-friendly implementation of the agreement, so that the TFA provisions are implemented by WTO members in a way that takes into account the needs of MSMEs. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Uruguay. Now I give the floor to Russian Federation to present the recommendation on promoting MSMEs inclusion in regulatory development in the area of trade. Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Yeah, it seems that I have no picture, but nevertheless.
You can go on. Dimitri?
Yes, I hear.
You need to unmute, Dimitri.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry for that. We all know that regulatory changes in regulatory environment are often difficult to both understand and comply with, not only for small companies, but also for large companies, not to mention MSMEs. And the group understood that lowering regulatory burden on MSMEs could help such businesses overcome such kind of barriers. Last year, we studied and discussed in detail national mechanisms of regulatory development with extensive presentations by several members. As a result of these deliberations, the group agreed to call upon all WTO members to promote the consideration of the specific needs of MSMEs in domestic regulatory development. In particular, the group came up with an illustrative, non-exhaustive list of regulatory steps that could probably, in the view of the group, benefit specifically MSMEs. Those are the following. Engagement of MSMEs in all steps of development. It means that they should be on the board. They should be engaged in the process. Second, publication of drafts at an early stage of development. It would allow MSMEs to get acquainted with them as soon as possible and to react. Third step is prospective assessment of the impact of possible new regulatory measures on MSMEs. Then we propose to provide to MSMEs a reasonable period of time to comment on drafts. And after that, to promptly publicate the adopted regulations so as the economic operators could adapt to the new requirements. One of practices that we understood would be very useful is a retrospective review of adopted regulations. And of course, making available all these documents online, especially in the current circumstances which are witnessing this necessity, is of particular importance. Also, the group discussed how to provide the technical assistance to MSMEs in terms of helping MSMEs to understand the regulatory issues and to be part of the regulatory process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Russian Federation. Now I give the floor to Canada to present the recommendation on MSMEs and the WTO integrated database. Canada, you have the floor.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Ambassador Kinsella. Similar to the previous presentation that I provided on the trade policy review mechanism and the use of that that vehicle that the WTO utilizes to examine our members' trade policies, this recommendation is meant to encourage members to utilize two new opportunities that are found in the 2019 update to the decision on the modalities and operation of the integrated database, the use of which can benefit MSMEs, in fact. This integrated database, just to make sure everyone knows, is the official source, the WTO's official source of tariff and other trade-related information as provided by the members. So first off, the recommendation highlights a new paragraph in the updated decision that opens up space for members to voluntarily provide additional tariff and trade-related information should they wish to do so. Several members were already providing information like preferential tariffs and import statistics under regional trade agreements. And so this new decision allows the Secretariat to add the data to the integrated database. The second part of this recommendation points to another new paragraph as a potential way to reduce the burden on members regarding their annual or their annual submission of tariff and trade data. This new paragraph in the updated decision creates an opportunity for a member to voluntarily enter into an agreement with the WTO Secretariat for the automatic transmission of this data. So the recommendation itself encourages members to step forward to contact the Secretariat, excuse me, in order to discuss if such a voluntary arrangement is appropriate for them. This recommendation is an important element for MSMEs to be able to access reliable, timely, and official information concerning tariffs and other taxes to be paid upon importation. In addition, keeping up to date the information provided by WTO members to the integrated database also supports research and analysis on MSMEs by international organizations who use this database, who have access to this database. I'm speaking here, for example, of organizations like the International Trade Center, UNCTAD, and the Food and Agriculture Organization. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Canada. I now give the floor to Côte d'Ivoire to present the declaration on addressing the trade-related aspects of MSMEs access to finance and cross-border payments. Côte d'Ivoire, you have the floor, sir.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Notre délégation se réjouit de prendre part à ce webinaire sur les travaux des micro, petites et moyennes entreprises. En effet, comme nous le savons tous, le déficit de financement du paiement du commerce qui s'élève à 1 milliard, à 1500 milliards de dollars affecte notablement les micro, petites et moyennes entreprises. Et ce problème est d'autant plus important pour les micro, petites et moyennes entreprises des pays en développement, et notamment africains, n'est-ce pas, et des PMA. De plus, malgré des efforts visant à respecter l'essentiel des normes bancaires, de nombreuses petites et moyennes entreprises se voient souvent refuser l'accès à des prêts ou soumises à des exigences de garantie excessives en raison d'asymétrie d'information. Les micro, petites et moyennes entreprises sont également confrontées aux problèmes de paiement transfrontalier. Et toutes ces situations-là, ces problèmes-là ont été amplifiés par le Covid-19. La déclaration sur la prise en compte des aspects liés au commerce d'accès des MPME au financement et au paiement transfrontalier, donc a pour objet d'inviter les membres, n'est-ce pas, de l'OMC à œuvrer de manière active dans le cadre des instances pertinentes à l'identification des mesures concrètes à travers l'échange de bonnes pratiques, le partage de renseignements sur l'assistance technique. Et puis, le secrétariat invite également le secrétariat de l'OMC à organiser, avec le soutien des organisations internationales, comme le Centre du commerce international, la Chambre internationale, la Chambre de commerce internationale, les séances d'information sur les aspects liés au commerce et à l'accès des MPME au financement et au paiement transfrontalier. Nous estimons que cette déclaration est très importante pour aider les micro et petites entreprises des pays en développement et des PMA à s'insérer et attirer, n'est-ce pas, à profit des opportunités qu'offrent les accords de l'OMC. Merci, Monsieur le coordinateur.
Thank you very much, Côte d'Ivoire. Last but not least, let me turn now to Mexico to present the Trade for MSMEs platform. Mexico, you have the floor now.
Thank you, Chair. As we've seen, one of the first and basic challenges faced by MSMEs around the world is access to information. MSMEs have a real need to access tools and develop competencies, especially when participating in international markets. But even in this information age, this is not always easy. During direct interviews held with MSMEs from different parts of the world, we found out that the problem is not the lack of information, but just the opposite. There's too much of it. This in turn creates other problems for MSMEs. Mainly, the sheer volume and dispersion of information makes it hard for MSMEs, as most don't have a team to help them identify resources and real opportunities. They don't know which sites to trust or how updated their information really is. Some of these sites are hard to access. Information might not be easily understandable for newcomers, or some essential information and tools can be quite expensive for a MSME. Based on this, the group decided to work on a WTO MSME platform now called Trade for MSMEs. The idea of this project is to gather in one place a wide variety of information and useful resources that would support the participation of MSMEs in international trade and promote their economic growth. It will also have a section dedicated to policymakers that will include ideas, examples of best practices, and provisions included in regional trade agreements to serve as a guide for governments interested in supporting their MSMEs. Furthermore, this platform could inform future discussion on MSMEs in the different WTO bodies. An important thing for our group's work is to generate feedback and information from MSMEs themselves. In this platform, we will include links to the International Chamber of Commerce surveys and business dialogues. In developing countries all over the world, there are many more people with access to smartphones than with access to a computer. Therefore, the Trade for MSMEs platform will be mobile friendly. We are well aware that there are many platforms dedicated to helping MSMEs, and we do not intend to duplicate them. Our goal is to identify the best ones, validate their information, and gather them in one searchable website in order to offer MSMEs a streamlined portal to access a wide range of information on most, if not all, topics needed to facilitate their access to international markets. The platform will, for example, refer to the Global Trade Help Desk of the ITC, which just been presented. The current COVID-19 crisis only highlights the urgency of this platform, as MSMEs require information more than ever, as well as the competencies to build the resilience and flexibility needed to face these unprecedented challenges. So we will continue working in cooperation with several international organizations and institutions to tackle these concerns and facilitate MSMEs access to information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mexico, and thank you all for presenting the various recommendations and declarations that compose the MSME package. We, of course, invite you all to support our package and to contribute to the group's future work. As noted earlier, the private sector plays a key role in shaping the group work. The more ideas you share with us, the more impact our actions will have for you all. With these words, let me now turn to you, the audience. As noted earlier, you can participate in the discussions via the chat box, but you can also raise your hand and take the floor. I strongly encourage you to raise your hand and take the floor. So if you raise your hand, we can see you directly in our screen, and we will give you the floor for a more direct exchange. We have framed the discussion into three important challenges encountered by MSMEs to allow for constructive discussions. We will open the discussion to more general comments after these three challenges. First, let's begin with trade facilitation. You have heard the presentation of the group's recommendation regarding trade facilitation. It calls for the full implementation of the Trade Facilitation Agreement, recommends engagement with MSMEs when designing trade facilitation regulatory measures, encourages the exchange of TFA implementation experiences involving MSMEs, and encourages WTO members to identify opportunities to adopt digital solutions to speed up customs procedures. According to you, what other trade facilitation solutions could the group consider to support MSMEs? We have received the first request of the floor, so now we have give the floor to Mr. Chandrakant Salunkle, from the Small and Medium Enterprises Chamber of India. Mr. Salunkle, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. I want to suggest two things. One, there are plenty of FTAs signed by the many countries, and the countries those are putting more efforts for the the larger way. But I would like to suggest the eminent speakers here to review all the FTAs which is useful for the particularly the SME perspective, whether it is perspective or not. Second thing, when we try to create some trade agreements or to remove the barriers, we have to focus now MSME sector, because after this pandemic there will be huge impact on the SME sector, and I don't think the new entrepreneurs or the new startups or any job seeker person will think to start a business because of the lack of support during this pandemic, loss of business, the loss of supply chain management. So, and particularly the finance is easily not available for the MSME sector. So these two suggestions to the panel, and particularly to the thought leaders, those are putting efforts to to create the volume or create the policy for the perspective of the SME sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Salunkle, for your comments. And let me share with you that here in the informal working group on MSMEs, with the help of the WTO Secretariat, we have produced a document that goes through the different RTAs that deals with MSMEs issues, and it's not just a collection of RTAs dealing with MSMEs, but it's also a clear reference by subject of all MSME-related issues that are dealt by these RTAs. You can easily access this document through the WTO webpage. Thank you very much again for your comments. Now, let me turn to Mr. Arif Zaman. You have the floor, sir. Mr. Zaman.
Sorry, I think it was just on me. My apologies for that. Yes.
Oh, right.
Yes, I think it's the occupational hazard. I think we all have. Arif Zaman, I sit on the board of the Commonwealth Business Women's Network, accredited by the 54 member states of the Commonwealth. My question was really about the opportunities, and we very much strongly welcome the developments announced today about the establishment and development of the working group. And I wanted to specifically ask about how it is working with organizations that are specifically focused on women in international trade. There are a number of initiatives that have been driven in the last 18 months at the Commonwealth level on trade, in terms of Commonwealth connectivity, in terms of there's the Commonwealth She Trades program, but we think there's a real opportunity to connect this work of the working group to some of that work. And I wanted to ask about specifically how the Commonwealth Business Women's Network could get involved in the working group, but more broadly, how are you ensuring that the work program of the group is fully going to integrate, and not just integrate, but accelerate work on opportunities for women in international trade, particularly in areas in which they're underrepresented and underserved. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Zaman. Let me tell you that in the group, we have working quite actively with the private sector. As a matter of fact, we have been in contact with different chambers of commerce of different members of the WTO that have, well, in the past have come here to Geneva, have contacted us. We have had meetings, and some of them have also produced documents that have sent to us with the expectations and the preoccupations of their members to share with us, which it was very useful for the group, I have to say, because this was the input, this was the food thought we need for our discussions. That allows us to see what your concerns really are, what are the issues that really matters to you, to the SMEs all around the world, and inform our discussions, trying to address, since from our perspective, from our particular activities, these issues. So we are going to discuss next year also how we can improve our interaction with private sector in order to continue with this activity. Regarding women, we are answering by the chat a similar question, but let me say that as you know, there is also a joint initiative at the WTO that deals with women and trade, and focuses particularly on this aspect. It is also true that many MSMEs around the world are headed by women. So this is also a subject that will be informing our discussions in the coming year on how specifically address this point in coordination, as I said, with the joint initiative on women and trade, and with other initiatives from other organizations dealing with trade. So thank you very much again for your comments. Now let me give the floor to Mr. Sitsengishive Lovu. You have the floor, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Madam, sorry.
Yes, I'm a madam. I'm calling from Zimbabwe. I actually support the last commentator who commented on women and trade. And I've actually heard what the facilitator has said about women and about maybe having programs in the next year. But it's actually worrisome to find that a trade agreement like WTO doesn't have any gender clause, as it were. So I'm worried, where are you going to start from as WTO in actually formulating, making sure that gender is actually observed within trade agreements? And secondly, through research, if maybe you have a publication by women authors called Women Shaping Global Economic Governance. It has actually captured data and a lot of information that these trade agreements, they tend to benefit a lot of multinational companies. They leaving the MSMEs behind. And today I'm actually maybe making you aware that it's not going to be a question of maybe trying to engage to see to it that women are actually involved. I think it involves in looking at the grassroots as to what is happening to trade agreements that are overlooking, that are just capturing in their preamble gender issues, and it doesn't go beyond that. So I think briefly, this is what is actually affecting us. And as MSMEs is rightly pointed, MSMEs are largely driven by women. So we don't want a token inclusion. We want to see an affirmative, a bold, a move in actually recognizing that indeed MSMEs are driven by women. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. And of course, as I said before, you have different organizations dealing with women and trade from different perspectives. Here at the WTO, as I said, there is a GSI dealing with this subject, but also you have a wonderful work that is being done, for example, by the International Trade Center through the Global Health Trade Desk and many other international organizations too. Of course, I think we need a better coordination among us, among these different initiatives and organizations, to be more specific and more precise in developing our work. And as you know, here in the WTO, we work on the basis of horizontal and non-discriminatory measures. So all the measures we have been, or recommendations we have been discussing in the group, favors all enterprises, big and small. But of course, I would say that small companies and MSMEs in particular will benefit more from these recommendations than big companies, multinationals, that perhaps in many cases simply do not need this kind of tools to move forward. So thank you very much for your comment. Now, let me give the floor to Mr. Carlos Grau Tanner, an old friend of this group too, from the Global Express Alliance. So you have always been very, very active with us, and you have sent us a new proposal that we eagerly will discuss in the group. So, Carlos, you have the floor.
Thank you. Buenas tardes, Embajador Cancela. Thank you very much for giving us the floor, and congratulations to the group on publishing this package. It's truly a remarkable feat. As a rule of thumb, half to 2/3 of the accounts that FedEx, DHL, or UPS have in any country are MSME accounts. So we are naturally very interested in the work of this group. On facilitation, I wanted to just talk about the proposal you just mentioned, which is to focus on low value shipments, or to put it in perspective, what happens when the Colombian perfume manufacturer gets an order for not a container, but one flask of perfume from Chile. The information available to the producer might be there, but that information, those rules, might be designed for companies that export a full container of perfume, not 1 or 2 flasks in a small parcel. And calculating the duties and taxes on that small parcel is sometimes an unsurmountable barrier for many MSMEs. We think we have found an operational solution. It's too detailed to explain it here, but we would be delighted to share it with the group in some detail in the new year, because we believe it could contribute tremendously to help MSMEs go global. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carlos, for your comments. Let me now turn to Madame Laura Sluga. You have the floor, ma'am.
Well, thank you very much. My name is María Laura Sluga from the Argentinian Chamber of Commerce and Services, La Cámara Argentina de Comercio y Servicios, CAC. Thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity. I'll be brief. There is an instrument foreseen in the Trade Facilitation Agreement. It is the Trade Facilitation Committee. As you all well know, each country is able to decide the composition and the functioning of this committee. We believe that it's key to recommend the active participation of private sector within the committee, and also to ensure that the voice of SMEs is well represented. However, we also are aware that it is quite a challenge to engage, to coordinate the participation of SMEs. And therefore, the Chambers of Commerce, which represent SMEs and other business associations as well, could be key players in order to ensure to leverage SMEs' contribution to public efforts towards trade facilitation. Given their practical experience, their knowledge, their on-the-ground knowledge, SMEs really could bring a lot of value to the discussion. And that's why it's key for them to play a key role in the Trade Facilitation Committee as a mechanism for consultation, communication, and implementation. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Laura. Let me now turn to Mohamed Lemin Baida. You have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. D'abord, mes remerciements, Monsieur le Président, et aux honorables délégations et aux invités. J'ai juste 2 points à mettre en évidence. D'abord, je m'appelle Mohamed Lemine, je suis le directeur général adjoint du commerce extérieur du ministère du Commerce de la Mauritanie et le directeur général par intérim. Effectivement, avec attention les présentations qui ont été faites, et effectivement, il y a un certain nombre d'obstacles qui entravent le développement des MSME dans le commerce international. Il y a exactement ce qu'on appelle l'accès aux services financiers, c'est-à-dire notamment la grandeur des garanties que l'on demande aux MSME, raison pour laquelle nous, en Mauritanie, nous avons développé...
Excusez-moi de vous interrompre. Est-ce que vous pourriez vous rapprocher du micro parce qu'on n'écoute pas très bien? Si vous pourriez vous rapprocher, je vous remercie. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'espère que vous m'entendez maintenant?
Oui, c'est un peu mieux maintenant. Merci.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, général adjoint du commerce extérieur dans le ministère du Commerce de la Mauritanie, et je suis le directeur général par intérim. J'ai suivi avec grande attention les présentations et les débats qui ont eu lieu, et c'est extrêmement important. Et effectivement, les MPME connaissent un certain nombre d'obstacles qui entravent leur développement dans le commerce international. Il y a notamment ce qui a été mentionné comme accès aux services financiers, notamment les garanties qui sont demandées par les banques. Raison pour laquelle nous, en Mauritanie, ici, nous avons développé le concept du crowdfunding, c'est-à-dire que les MPME peuvent avoir accès aux services financiers, non pas auprès des banques, mais également auprès de certains investisseurs qui peuvent donner leur argent, comme ce qu'on appelle le crowdfunding ou le business angels. Il y a également l'accès à l'information qui peut poser problème. Mais j'aimerais tout simplement mettre en évidence une chose, c'est qu'il y a aussi d'autres problèmes qui n'ont pas été énumérés. C'est des problèmes qui sont structurels. Par exemple, le coût de l'électricité, le coût du transport, également la main-d'œuvre qui est peu qualifiée souvent, et souvent il est assez coûteuse. Et il y a également un certain nombre de problèmes qui sont internes, la fiscalité intérieure qui peut peser lourdement sur les MPME. Par exemple, chez nous en Mauritanie, 80% des MPME disparaissent 2 ans après leur création, et c'est dû, c'est-à-dire au poids de la fiscalité et également à toutes ces charges-là. Donc ça pose sérieusement un problème. Donc la question que j'aimerais tout simplement mettre en évidence, c'est que est-ce que au sein du groupe de travail, est-ce que vous envisagez de ne pas seulement, c'est-à-dire faire une collaboration avec le secteur privé, mais également essayer d'étendre ça avec les gouvernements pour qu'on puisse justement remédier ces problèmes qui sont structurels là, parce que ce sont des problèmes qui émanent des solutions qui sont gouvernementales. Est-ce que cette possibilité-là, elle est envisageable? Et notamment moi, puisqu'il n'y a pas longtemps que j'ai pris la direction, je vais essayer de voir est-ce que la Mauritanie fait partie de cette liste des 90 pays qui sont partis de ce groupe de travail-là. Si la Mauritanie fait partie, c'est excellent. Sinon, quelle est la démarche à entretenir pour que la Mauritanie puisse demander son adhésion à ce groupe de travail? Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Directeur, et merci beaucoup pour votre commentaire. D'abord, laissez-moi vous dire que malheureusement, on n'a pas la Mauritanie entre les membres du groupe, et bien sûr que nous serons heureux de compter avec la Mauritanie parmi les membres de ce groupe, parce que précisément, nous, les représentants des différents membres de l'OMC qui sont ici dans les groupes informels de petites et moyennes entreprises, et nous sommes représentants du gouvernement, et alors nous travaillons avec les gouvernements. Ça veut dire que les recommandations que nous faisons sont destinées en premier lieu pour nous-mêmes, pour les gouvernements eux-mêmes, pour les prendre en compte. Et ça c'est une chose que je veux faire claire, et qu'alors, ça sera bien important d'avoir votre pays parmi les membres du groupe, et d'une façon telle que votre gouvernement pourrait être informé sur ce que nous discutons et ce que nous proposons. Et alors, je vous remercie par votre commentaire, c'est bien important ça. Et maintenant, je vais, sorry, now I give the floor to Dr. Abdulassam Al-Dairi. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for your efforts, and glad to have this and participate in this very important meeting. And I think with such efforts, we're aiming for the best and better levels and conditions for all the MSMEs worldwide. Your Excellency, I have a suggestion here to help in creating an MSMEs XM market. First of all, my name is Dr. Abdul Hassan Al-Dairi. I'm the chairman of Bahrain SME Society, and I'm also the general coordinator for the UNISMO, that is the United International SMEs Organizations, which is based in Bahrain, the headquarters in Bahrain, and consists of, we just started this new organization this year, 2020, a few months ago. And currently it consists of 25 founding members from 12 countries covering all the 6 continents. And we'd love to have cooperation with your organization. And what I'd like to suggest here, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, is to create or establish what we can call the MSMEs XM market. And that is to be in charge or to facilitate the export and import of the SMEs across the world. That's something that we are also working on in our UNISMO. Now I would love to see such cooperation so that we don't duplicate efforts, but we complement each other. And I'm glad to be part on this forum with you as well. And also glad to inform you that we are hoping that this nasty COVID-19 would end up soon, and we receive a new year, 2021, without the corona pandemic. And hence we're looking for the opening of worldwide markets. And with that, we also are focusing with our activities, seminars on the reopening of the global markets and the opportunities for the SMEs with such reopening. And I'm glad to inform you that we've just decided in our board meeting of the UNISMO to organize our 9th International MSMEs Day Summit next year in June 2021 in Bahrain. And the main theme for it is the global markets reopening and the opportunities and challenges for SMEs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments and for your very interesting suggestion. And allow me to tell you that precisely Bahrain has always been a very active member of this group. Since the very beginning, Bahrain has been contributing very actively to our work. So as you know, this is a member-driven organization, so the subjects we discuss are brought to our meetings by the members. I think it will be very useful if you can transmit this suggestion to your government so that the representative of Bahrain in our group can come up with this very interesting idea, so we could discuss it in our work for next year. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Now I give the floor to Mrs. Anna Jankowska from the ITC. We have heard her before in the presentations, so also a very good friend of this group. Anna, you have the floor. Anna, we cannot hear you.
No, sorry. I think my internet is having a little bit. Sorry about that. I just got cut off for a second. Chair, could you please repeat the question?
Anna, now we can hear you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. My internet was just disconnected for a moment. Could you please repeat the question?
Well, I think we have a confusion here. We have you requesting the floor, Anna.
No, I'm sorry. That was an error. Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, never mind. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I will turn now to our next speaker, who is also a very good friend of this group, and I would say a very enthusiastic supporter of the MSMEs. That is Louis Widget. Louis from South Africa, you have the floor, man.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and I must compliment the WTO members and also under your fantastic leadership for the achievement over the past year. It has been a difficult year, and I think the SMEs, MSMEs have really felt the impact of COVID. So the 2 points that I really want to raise, and I think it is critically important that it becomes one of the highest priorities, and it's also one of the initiatives that the ICC has been driving very heavily, is the matter around the digitization of all the trade documentation, and particularly with a focus on the trade agreement type of documentation. We still suffer a lot in the less developed countries of wanting paper. And I think with COVID, we've learned that paper is not the way to go. So if this can be given a lot of priority in the workings of the group, it will be fantastic. I think the second important point is then really around also looking at the digitization of the customs and other regulatory requirements, to be able to go seamlessly through border post without having to do anything in a manual format will be greatly beneficial, especially to the smaller companies that get caught up in the red tape and don't really have the expertise or backup to unravel that. So thank you very much. And once again, congratulations with the work being done and the work and the achievements that has happened. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luis, for your intervention. Now I will give the floor back to Alicia from Mexico. Alicia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to quickly comment on the questions regarding gender considerations. Some of us oversee also the Informal Working Group on Trade and Gender that is based on the Buenos Aires Declaration on Trade and Women's Economic Empowerment. And we have brought MSMEs issues and concerns to the Trade and Gender Group for a specific action. And I just wanted to say that we intend to keep this coordination and feedback on information and possible activities, as both groups are about improving access and economic empowerment through inclusivity and equity. So our work will definitely reflect on both groups as they are very related. Thank you, Chair.
Muchas gracias, Alicia. Now let me give the floor to Dr. Lula Abdullah. You have the floor. We cannot hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for inviting us and for having us in this group. I am Dr. Lulu Al-Mutlaq. I am the advisor of SMEs Society in Bahrain, and also I am a board member of UNISMO, which is Dr. Abdul Hassan have just recently introduced. And just, being a woman, and I would like really just you as a working group to emphasize on the role of women, especially on the in the era of COVID-19, and how women can deal with the new normal, because just, it has been a very difficult years, and especially for women. And women is not really like just, she's a special group, and they need a lot of support, especially when it comes to running many different responsibilities at the same time. Women responsible for home, for children, for society, for her work. So I think they need just, more attention, and they need priority in dealing with her life, and to create a kind of balance on running her business as well as just, taking care of other responsibilities in life. I'm sure that, this working group can really have just, a special focus on women and youth as well. Youth now just, facing a lot of challenges, and they are really not like our times. They are facing technology issues, which is need to be give a lot of attention, and needs to be also to consider as new things to deal with it effectively and efficiently. Digitalization has come in, and a lot of youth are using it, but also we need really to emphasize and put a lot of efforts to guide and to coach and mentor the youth, and especially those entrepreneurs and startups who have entered the market, and they try to just be involved in business without any experience. So when we just extend hand and help them, that will be an added value to our societies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam, for your very interested comments. I see now that Mr. Victor Dosorets has requested the floor. You have the floor, sir. We cannot hear you, Mr. Dosorets.
Hola, ¿me puede escuchar?
Sí, sí,
Hola.
ahora lo escuchamos.
Bueno, muchas gracias por la oportunidad. Felicitaciones por este encuentro. Mis reflexiones querían referirse por un lado, a la importancia, ¿no?, del acuerdo de facilitación de comercio y la necesidad de ir a implementación, a un proceso de implementación más rápida, más concreta, para poder encontrar resultados efectivos, sobre todo para las MIPYMES. Por otro lado, quería referirme a la importancia del proceso de digitalización que se está mencionando. Creo que la iniciativa del Global Trade Desk, así como otras iniciativas que ha tenido, por ejemplo, la ICC en la región de Latinoamérica, con una guía para pymes y demás, creo que debiéramos tratar en el marco de esta organización trabajar en forma conjunta para no repetir esfuerzos. De todas maneras, las iniciativas estas son muy importantes. El COVID nos ha mostrado la aceleración, la importancia y la oportunidad de la digitalización de las pequeñas empresas, y por eso el trabajo que nosotros podemos hacer y los aportes desde el sector privado. Mi representación tiene que ver con, soy fundador de una empresa PYME, y aprovecho en relación a todo lo que se hablaba y lo que decía la embajadora Victoria Francolini en relación a jóvenes, a mujeres. La empresa que presido está totalmente constituida por mujeres jóvenes. Estamos en la región, somos exitosos y tenemos que tratar de trabajar dentro de las organizaciones y las cámaras para compartir estas experiencias y que la implementación sea exitosa. Gracias por la oportunidad.
Muchas gracias, Víctor, y qué mejor para nosotros siempre que escuchar directamente la voz de las MSMEs. Gracias. Now I will give the floor to Madame Brigitte Proudhon. Madame, vous avez la parole.
Oui, bonjour. Merci de m'avoir invité et de me donner la parole. C'est dans la même ligne, je voudrais continuer avec cette aide qu'on peut apporter aux jeunes. J'avais participé au groupe et j'avais mis l'emphase sur l'importance de la dissémination de l'information qui part des groupes mondiaux, comme celui de l'OMC, mais pour aider les PME aux différents niveaux, là, fédéral, provincial et régionaux, et pour justement aider au niveau organisationnel. Maintenant, en lien avec les deux dernières recommandations, je voudrais mettre l'accent sur l'importance des étudiants. Hein, on veut encourager les jeunes, on dit toujours que l'éducation, la scolarité, elle est importante pour se sortir un peu des misères que l'on a, sauf qu'on néglige beaucoup les étudiants en exportation. Et ça, je trouve ça très triste. Je suis moi-même professeure en marketing international et la directrice du Centre de commercialisation internationale de l'Université de Moncton au Nouveau-Brunswick, au Canada. Et je me bats pour être capable d'avoir de l'information pour que les étudiants puissent, ils élaborent des stratégies de marketing, d'exportation, mais ils ne sont pas capables d'avoir l'information juste. C'est très difficile à la force de travail, mais félicitations pour les plateformes que je vois disponibles maintenant. Ça va être une grande aide pour eux et j'aimerais que nous puissions faire cette présentation de la plateforme dans nos groupes à des contextes régionaux. Alors, je vous remercie beaucoup d'entendre ma demande et félicitations pour le beau travail qui a été fait. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Madame, pour votre intervention. Et laissez-moi vous dire que nous sommes à votre disposition pour faire la présentation, soit de les Global Trade Help Desk et aussi pour la plateforme que nous allons lancer l'année prochaine avec une coordination de l'information disponible pour les petites et moyennes entreprises. Ça, on peut coordonner comment le faire, mais je crois qu'effectivement, ce sont des outils très intéressants et très importants pour adresser les préoccupations que vous nous avez déjà signalées. Alors, je vous remercie encore. I don't have more speakers on my list. So I propose now that as we have still some 15 minutes to go, we can turn to our second topic, which was access to finance and cross-border payments. You have heard the presentation of the group's recommendation on that topic. It calls on WTO members to exchange best practices and share information on technical assistance with a view to identify concrete measures to address issues around MSMEs access to finance solutions. The group also invites the WTO Secretariat to organize information sessions on trade-related aspects of MSMEs access to finance and cross-border payments with relevant international organizations. Some of you have also mentioned the access to finance issue in the interventions we have just heard. So according to you, what are topics the group could explore to support MSMEs access to finance and cross-border payment solutions? Does anyone from the private sector like to take the floor to further elaborate on this issue of access to finance and cross-border payments? I see Luis requesting the floor. So Luis, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I think the one point that is important here is the information session on trade-related aspects and the access to finance. What is quite amazing and what has happened during the course of this year, that it's been very easy to share information through this kind of electronic engagement. And there's so much to learn from, for instance, South America, where they've got a majority SME market, and they've made some very innovative finance and cross-border payment solutions available. So I think that's something that one can look at, and possibly look at setting up a consolidated portal of where all these access to finance and cross-border payments are available with some links, it could be very, very beneficial for SMEs, because as one of the speakers mentioned, there's a lot of information out there and you're not quite sure what is reliable, not reliable, what is true, what is up to date. So I think that could be a very worthwhile initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis. Now I would give the floor to Mr. Abdulassam Al-Dairi. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Sir Ambassador. And I think the access to finance is a very important topic and vital issue for the MSMEs. And from our experience in Bahrain, the more the offer for the finance for SMEs, the better the conditions for the SMEs. So I urge from this forum that we encourage more of especially the private banks, to stimulate and encourage them to offer more loans for the SMEs. Now, we may have the intervention of the governments here to sort of become a guarantee, to be a guarantor for these loans, especially for the private sector, for the private banks. However, on the other side, probably encourage the governments to have more of the development banks. And with that, when we have more schemes and more offers for financing the MSMEs, I think that would be in a better shape. That would really encourage and have an enabling environment, an ecosystem for financing the MSMEs, especially the micro enterprises. Otherwise, the problem would continue, and the access to finance would be a big problem for many SMEs or MSMEs, especially the micro enterprises, which would really hinder them from unlocking their potentials and opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your very interesting suggestion.
Thank you.
I don't see more requests for the floor. Just let me comment that one suggestion we also received from the private sector 2018, 2020 was that we could improve the relationship between fintech startups and banks, since fintech startups are better placed generally to support MSMEs, but struggle to access global payment systems managed by large banks. I see that Mr. Damian Bruckard raised the hand, so you have the floor, sir. We cannot hear you.
My apologies. Thank you very much. So Damien Brackard from the International Chamber of Commerce here. First of all, congratulations on this excellent package. We're extremely pleased with the progress that has been made, and I really want to congratulate everyone that has worked on this. Just on access to finance, I wanted to draw people's attention to a recent memorandum that ICC put together, which was published in November, and I can share in the chat, on access to finance and some of the interventions that could be most useful to ensure that the ever-widening trade finance gap, which of course hits MSMEs particularly hard, can be reduced. So most of these recommendations will fall slightly outside the scope of the WTO's work. However, we think that it would be good to at least be aware of some of the recommendations in relation to flexing Basel III requirements, some of the recommendations that we've made in relation to government and central bank purchases of trade assets in the digitalization agenda could be useful. So if you permit me to do that, I'll share that in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we will be keen on going through these recommendations that you were just mentioning. Thank you very much. Let me now turn to our third topic, which is digitalization. As you know, a COVID-19 pandemic has underscored the importance of digital economy for continuity of business operation and company resilience, especially for MSMEs. This issue was also was just mentioned by one of our audience members here, Louise Widget, in her intervention. So according to you all, how can the group support digitalization to promote MSMEs participation in international trade? Any more comments on this subject? Dr. Abdulhassan Al-Dairi, you have the floor.
Yes, Your Excellency. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes. I just want to suggest, but just want to confirm, because I think that there is a platform for MSMEs, or for, as I suggested earlier as well, to have like a global market, the EXIM market for the MSMEs. And by default, if we have such a platform, I think we can benefit from the digitalization and the high-tech, the technology, by having such a platform. And that platform, I mean, I'm just saying this because just in case it was not suggested, because probably it was suggested earlier, but just in case, I think by having such a platform, that by default will help in the digitalization of the MSMEs network activities, and that will also help to sort of have the whole world as a small village for the SMEs, and connect all the SMEs worldwide from east to west, and I think there are so many benefits by having such a platform for the MSMEs worldwide, and that would be really the utmost utilization of technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, today we talk about the platform we are going to launch next year, which will be a platform consolidating information about MSMEs, basically showing MSMEs where they can access the different kind of information that it's important for them, and also recommendations to policymakers. That will be the platform we're about to launch next year. But you mentioned today the EXIM platform. That would be an interesting idea for discussion, and perhaps Bahrain could come up with this initiative in our group to further discuss. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Excellency.
I see now Madame Lovu. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. I think I'm talking from maybe a perception of Africa as far as digitization is concerned. And it's actually in two parts. First, I think I would recommend that the policymakers to continue to issue a moratorium on digital imports right across countries as a way to ensure that no one is left behind in terms of digitization, and especially the MSMEs. And secondly, would also implore our investors to invest in renewable energies so that maybe when we do invest, when we do have the hardware for digitization, I'm talking about smartphones, we also have the energy. Remember, in Africa, the there are a lot of power outages. But if you have the sort of the hardware that is going to be relying on solar energy, that will actually go a long way in actually ensuring that people stay online most of the time, and also maybe investing also in satellite networks, so that, because currently in Africa, internet is very expensive due to the use of Wi-Fi. But if we're going to invest in satellite network and in solar energy as well, I think that is going to go a long way. And also having duties, customs duties and taxes suspended on importations of this hardware as well as the software that accompanies digitization of processes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. You know, in our informal working group on MSMEs, we have two extraordinary and very active African members, which are Cote d'Ivoire and Nigeria. And we certainly encourage more African countries to come into our group and to bring the African perspective inside. We need it. We need it to address the particular concerns of African countries in our group. And thank you also for giving me the opportunity to refer to someone that was mentioned by one person before regarding the infrastructural problems that that you find sometimes with e-commerce and like the things you were just mentioning right now. There is also a working program on the WTO, and it's a formal a ministerial mandate and the formal discussions at WTO that we have also to address in order to try to better help African countries to develop trade, e-commerce and digitalization. So, but we need you to inform our discussions. We need more African participants in our group. So you are very welcome. Thank you very much once again for your intervention. I don't see, yeah, sorry. Luis, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I can add a second African voice to the previous speaker. At least we're well represented on this group, although it's from a private sector perspective. I think what is very important and where this group can play a big role is to look at the way trade agreements are being negotiated and the basis on which they are being negotiated. If there's not an approach with these trade agreements to look at a fully digitalized approach, and that the fundamentals of the trade agreements and the way that they are managed are changed, we're never going to reach the ultimate dream of having the whole process digitized. And I think that's a very important role that the WTO and its members can play to start thinking when these trade agreements are being negotiated, to actually have somebody from a technical perspective part of these discussions that can point out how digitization can influence and assist the trade agreement negotiations and also the control and management of these processes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis, for your always very interesting insights. I don't see new requests from the floor. So thank you all for your very constructive inputs. We invite you to send us your inputs in writing. Thank you very much for your participation today. As noted earlier, the private sector plays a key role in identifying obstacles encountered by MSMEs in international trade and finding solutions to overcome them. We hope to keep this dialogue going. Should you have any suggestions or questions on our work, do not hesitate to reach out to us, to me directly, to Mauro Bruno of the Mission of Uruguay, or to the WTO Secretariat. Mauro's and the WTO Secretariat's emails, as I said before, are indicated in the chat box. We hope to hear from you very, very soon. And with these words, I wish you all a nice day. Stay safe and healthy. And once again, thank you very much for your participation. Have a nice day.